literally a day after Monday's show, Saquon Barkley decided to sign a 1-year, $10.1 million contract with $900,000 in incentives. Now, the franchise tag is a 1-year deal worth $10.1 million. So essentially, he has the opportunity to make it $900,000 more, but on the baseline value, he got the exact same contract. Now, the incentives, it's $303,000 apiece. It's 1,350 yards a season, 11 touchdowns, and 65 receptions. For one season. So that's how you get from 10.1 to about $11 million.
He didn't reach those targets last year.
He was very, very close to it. If
he didn't get there, though.
He was extremely close. I think he got the yards, maybe not the.
He didn't get the receptions.
Right, the receptions. Well, which is interesting to when you have Daniel Jones, dinking and dunking last season. So no, he didn't even get the yards. He was 13-12.
Yeah,
which is
that's a lot of yards. Is that combined yards, rushing and receiving?
It's yards rushing, so it's just rushing yards. So we'll have to see if Saquon can get it, but I'm going to ask you. I'm going to jump in on this after you, but do you think it was a good idea for Saquon to fold after he threatened to potentially hold out of the season due to, being disgruntled over his contract situation?
Well, I think he got a bad deal. It starts at the franchise tags, and it only rises $900,000 if he hits the TDs and receptions and the yardage. He missed the TDs and target and receptions target last year, so getting there this year going to be even harder because the Giants have better receiving core this year than they did last year. So I think it's going to be hard for him to hit those targets. There's no guarantee the Giants won't franchise tag him again next year if he has a good year. He didn't try to get that out of there. He should have tried to get that out. Say you cannot franchise tag me next year. He didn't try for that. Let's see. I think he did it because he wants to be in training camp. He didn't like the media making him look like he was greedy. And, he could have had it. And another thing that was bad about it, he could have had a deal worth $14 million. They offered him a $14 million contract and he rejected it. So he didn't, the Giants are the big winner here, I think. I think Saquon didn't do so well.
I find it crazy how after, threatening that he would hold out and, all the running backs getting into a Zoom call to talk about, how suppressed the market is and threatening to exaggerate and fabricate injuries reportedly in order to, show the value of running backs for the team. And even Nick Chubb said in his first press conference at the Browns training camp that it hurts their cause when, running backs sign for a 1 year, or just sign for like $6 million a year. And I think this is something along the lines of that, because you basically sign for the franchise tag with a little bit extra, but it is the franchise tag contract.
Chubb to say these things. He's the number 2 paid running back in the league. Yeah, he's making over $14 million a year.
I know. Well, that's
he can make these comments. His contract's all set. He's got the money he wants.
And that's why I think players like CMC and Derrick Henry and like Nick Chubb, while it's a nice gesture to do, you're not being affected by this. Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, those are running backs. And Austin Eckler. Those are running backs that are actually being affected by it. You made your money.
Well, Saquon Barkley didn't help the cause of his brethren, of the other running backs in the league. Right?
And that's exactly what I was going to say. Saquon right now basically just shot the cause in the foot because guess what? He laid down and he accepted the fact that, hey, I'm not going to make a lot of money, but I want to play apparently. So let me just jump in. And on the first day of training camp, he decided to say, you know what? This holding out thing? Not really about that. Sorry, guys, and let me sign. Josh Jacobs still hasn't reported. He's still holding out here. Jonathan Taylor did show up, and Irsay had a very strange quote about how he found it like unacceptable for running backs to come out and speak, against their contract and against the CBA that they signed. And Jonathan Taylor was, and at least Jonathan Taylor's agent was not too happy about the owner of his running back saying something like that. So, I do think it's a good move for all parties, but it's more so a huge win for the Giants, a massive win for the Giants, Because what Saquon is to that team is probably at least 60% of that offense. Daniel Jones, I looked it up. Daniel Jones right now, the average depth of target last year was dead last in the NFL. Dead last. And guess what? He had a bad receiver core, but it wasn't the worst in the league. You could maybe argue it wasn't even bottom 10. So what we're taking a look at now is Daniel Jones has more talent, and his incentives are, I'll say it again, 1,350 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns, and 65 receptions. Last year, Saquon had 1,312 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 57 receptions. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for Saquon. However, what I find interesting is that when Daniel Jones was getting ripped on by the media and by fans, it was Saquon Barkley who stepped up and defended his quarterback and sort of campaigning for him to get paid. Now, I was about to say sort of what his value is worth, but I don't think he's worth $40 million a year. So, and now we're hearing Saquon Barkley go through this, and we haven't heard a peep about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has not said a word saying, Saquon's a great player, a valuable asset to this team. I think he deserves to get paid. When Saquon was campaigning for Daniel Jones to earn some respect, where's Daniel Jones speaking about Saquon to get his respect? And Saquon's contract now, to get that $900,000 in incentives, actually largely determined on whether or not Daniel Jones gives him the ball. Or if the passing game's going, will the offense stick to more of a passing style offense?
I think he'll get 65 receptions because the receiver core is better. They have Waller on the team.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's going to be largely dependent on a quarterback that hasn't been as outspoken as the running back is about you.
Yeah.
So now Saquon has to basically has to hope the offensive passing game is not that great, so he could be the security blanket of Daniel Jones, and he has to stay healthy, so then they can rely heavily on the run for him. That's what he has to hope for. And right now, with the way the Giants look, reportedly Darren Waller is now Daniel Jones' best target and has been basically unstoppable in training camp. The chances of Saquon going out here and dominating, at least getting that 65 receptions, it's going to be a little bit difficult. The 11 touchdowns and 1,350 rushing yards, that I can honestly say, that's doable. He got 1,312 and 10 touchdowns last season. So I think it'll be easy to get those. So he may get, $10.7 million, not the full 11 that he's hoping for, because that 65 receptions, I do think is going to be the biggest roadblock there. Mm. But I think honestly, the second one may be the 1,350 rushing yards. The touchdowns,
that's a lot.
We just saw Ezekiel Elliott score 12 rushing touchdowns. Now he got released by the Cowboys and hasn't been signed. He went back-to-back double-digit touchdown seasons. He's not even signed. So I think the 11 touchdowns is easy. Compared to the rest of it. But the receptions, I do think, are going to be the biggest one, because last season, the offense was terrible. I should say Daniel Jones was a large step above what he used to be. But on the elite offensive scale, the Giants were way below. We're talking about 22 total touchdowns for Daniel Jones, 15, though, through the air. And Saquon Barkley was
Where was the total offense? Where were they ranked?
So last year, the Giants in total offense was ranked 18th.
18th. Well, that's not a disaster.
26th. Passing was 26th. Rushing was 4th.
Well, 4 is pretty good.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley was a huge component of that offense.
The Giants are big
60%.
winners here. Saquon Barkley should have at least got them to say they wouldn't franchise tag him next year.
Right.
He should have knocked down those numbers on the guarantee, on the incentives, right? He should have got the receptions down to about 50. Should have got the rushing yards down to 1,000, and he should have got the TDs, maybe 8.
Okay.
Yeah, he should have tried for that to pick up the extra $1 million. Yeah.
Well, and what I want to get your comment on this. So going forward right now, like you said, the Giants could just go up and just straight up franchise tag him again. So really, what's the win here? There is no massive win here. So I want to know, do you think the Giants should franchise tag Saquon after literally just dealing with it this year and going through that, whole spiel? Do you think the Giants should go out and franchise tag him again?
I think they will. If he has a great season, I think they'll just franchise tag him again.
You think they will?
Why wouldn't they? It's a business.
I completely agree, and that's what I've been arguing about Damian Lillard.
Who else is going? If he has a great season, who else is going to rival him for the franchise tag?
Well,
nobody.
What I'm thinking, I don't know exactly, how spot on this would be, but what I'm thinking is, if there is a chance that the Giants go out and franchise tag Saquon again, I really believe Saquon's going to say, okay, this is it. I'm not signing this. We're not getting anywhere.
I doubt it. They've already proven that he caves. He's going to cave.
Well,
they'll sweeten it. They'll sweeten it a little bit. They make the incentives a little easier to get to. That's all. And then he'll wind up signing it again. He'll wind up getting another 1-year contract. That's basically the franchise tag with some incentives in it to make him have another great season. So,
I mean, if I was Saquon Barkley, I wouldn't have folded this easily. Because that literally is just setting me up to deal with it again because I already proven, I'll bow down and just do this just to play, And what's crazy is that if Derrick Henry or CMC or Nick Chubb just went on their merry way, that would be fine because they made their money. It's Jonathan Taylor and Austin Eckler and Josh Jacobs and Saquon that need to step up and prove that, no, we're serious about this thing. We really believe the running back market is suppressed, and we're not going to just let, the owners and the GMs just say, it is what it is. We'll just find it. And instead, Saquon and Jonathan Taylor, they all showed up, and I think Austin Eckler even showed up. The only one that I don't think is reported to training camp was Josh Jacobs. So he's really believing in this cause. He's truly upset about it. Saquon,
I think he's got a little more clout because the Raiders really need him badly, right? They're going to need him badly. They haven't got that great a team, and he's probably their best player.
Do I have the stat here? Yes. Okay. So I brought up the stat on Monday's show. Here we go. So I've talked about this before when we talked about the Raiders, and I said, how good, or basically, what would the Raiders look like without Josh Jacobs? And what I found out was when the Raiders rushed for under 100 yards, they were 1-8. And the only win, can you guess the win? And the reason why there should be an obvious thing why I'm asking you about this.
Yeah.
The only win where they rushed for under 100 yards is
against the Patriots.
The Patriots was the only game where they rushed for under 100 yards and still won. They were 5-3.
They won that on a boneheaded play.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it may not. They probably should have been 0-9 when they rushed for under 100 yards, which is crazy to think about. So that's the true impact. And we're talking about Derek Carr, who his wide receiver one was still a top receiver in the league. It's just Derek Carr had a bad year, a really, really bad year, albeit behind a bad offensive line and a tremendously bad defense. But still, your running back was the best in the league last year. And you should have probably gone 0-9, we're talking about here, when your running backs rush for under 100 yards. So Josh Jacobs has a legitimate key point. We saw Saquon and that rushing attack slow down, not come to a stop, but slow down second half of the season. And Daniel Jones, he sort of picked up where the running game left off. And that's why the Giants sort of remained largely successful last season before losing in the playoffs. So it wasn't entirely on Saquon. But I would say, we're talking about big plays and efficiency, and especially early in the year, getting those early wins. That's probably mostly Saquon Barkley. But then Daniel Jones stepped it up second half of the season, and we saw, why people are saying Daniel Jones is a top 10 quarterback last year. So Saquon, while he doesn't have that type of power over the Giants like Josh Jacobs has over the Raiders, I still would have fought for this cause. I would have fought for it because, think about it. If the Giants feel like you're more trouble than you're worth, they would have gotten off of you. So a team may have paid you more money than the Giants are willing to. Yeah. Instead, you have to do what the Giants potentially franchise.
Well, you know what? I guess he doesn't care that much about the money. He wants to be with his teammates. He wants to be out there the first day, the training camp, and he was worried people were looking at him as being greedy. So I think, I guess he's happy. Well, they say he's not happy. I don't know whether he's unhappy or not.
Well, he's going to be happy in front of the cameras and everything.
Yeah, but I wonder how he feels about the Giants. He probably doesn't feel like good about them.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.